I just started reaching out to everybody. And then I reached out to Danny Santiago. Worked on Sex and the City, the entire Sex and the City.
Like styling?
Yeah, like the co-stylist.
That's very cool.
He actually was the co-stylist for And Just Like That. He worked on the Devil Wears Prada, the original
my God,
one.
icon. That's iconic.
And he worked on this new one coming out too. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I would like to know if one of these days I can shadow you. I'm interested in learning a little bit. And he didn't answer at first. And then I followed up again, like, hey, just so you know, da 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 da. And then he was like, I'm working Patricia Field's fashion show this weekend. Do you want to come by? And I was like, yes, never done anything like that before. But I was like, yes, of course, I'm going to do it.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Visibility Edit podcast. I'm your host, Manuela Salazar. Today I'm joined by the amazing Loida. Loida, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. It's an honor.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
So Loida, for those of you who don't know you, tell us a little bit about your background and kind of like a little backsnap of your life.
Okay, well, I was born in San Andres Islas, Colombia. I moved here when I was around 12 years old. Obviously, my mom wanted me to have a better future, as many moms want for their kids. So I moved here, and getting here, everything was different for me. The language, where I come from, we do speak English. It's a Caribbean English, it's a Creole. Mm-hmm. And in my household, that's my first language. So the language barrier wasn't an issue, but the culture was different. Exactly. The school was different, and I went from being in the same school from kindergarten to seventh grade with all my friends.
Oh gosh.
To now being in a new school where I didn't know anybody. The teachers were different. Everything was different. So that was a little bit challenging for me. But I was able to overcome that. Then I went off to college, and I thought for some reason that I wanted to be a surgeon. So I graduated with a bio major. But my junior year, I started working in a medical office, and I realized this is not where I see myself at all, But I was like, I'm already in my junior year of college. What am I going to do? Am I going to start over again? Or am I going to just rock it out and then figure it out? And that's what I did. I said, you know what? You're going to have to finish your career and you're going to have to take it from there. So I graduated, with a bio degree. And then one day I'm looking for jobs and I see this opportunity for Warner Brothers. And I was like, let me apply and see what happens. The worst thing is that they're going to tell me no, And I remember one day I'm going to work and I get a missed call and I'm like, who called me? And when I called back, it was like, thank you for calling CNN. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I missed the call of the job that I want.
Yeah.
Anyways, we were able to work it out. So I started working with them out of college and I worked with them for 11 years. I really loved the industry. But my heart is in fashion, and I love everything aesthetic. I love production. So I, on the side, said, what would it be like for me to start, working into fashion? I mean, I didn't have an avenue to get into it. But I started taking like courses online, because I said, okay, if I'm going to get a job in fashion, then I'm going to have to need kind of like a backing because I don't have anything at the moment. And I just started reaching out to stylists in Miami, local people in the fashion industry. And then that's how I kind of got into the fashion industry that way.
And you also mentioned being from San Andres.
Yes.
I don't know if you know, but I'm also Colombian. I'm caleña, actually.
Oh, nice.
But I love San Andres.
You've been?
I've been, of course, I've been. We have like a family home there. So I visit all the time.
Beautiful.
The culture, I love the culture, everything. I remember literally growing up and being like best friends with like my neighbor. It's amazing.
Oh,
but
beautiful.
About that like change, you moved when you were 12, right?
Yes.
So middle school.
Yeah.
And you were in the same school your whole life. How was that change culturally? Like what was the biggest culture shock, would you say?
the friendships, because the friendships that you get are lifelong friendships.
Yeah, that's
you,
true.
you're in the same classroom with these people from kindergarten. You know their families. You sleep over. Your families know each other. So it's like they're life friendships that you cultivate, and then just suddenly having that ripped away from you. Because in my case, obviously, my mom didn't tell me that I was moving for good. She told me that I was coming here to go to Disney World.
No, are you lying?
I know.
No.
I know. So to me, it was like, okay, I'm going on vacation to Disney World, and then, I'm like, okay, where is Disney World? Like, why are we not going
you're
to
lying to
Disney
me.
World? And I hear her asking people about, how do I register my daughter to start school?
Oh,
And I'm like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean? So obviously it was rough. It was rough, but I think Miami is an easy segue,
That's true.
for people who come from Latin America, because they are so many people from Latin America.
It's so rich and like that
right,
type of
exactly.
culture as well.
So
Yeah,
you
I
meet
agree.
so many people with equal backgrounds. The language barrier is not as tough because people speak Spanish, so you're able to communicate. As I said, in my case, I had the advantage that I already spoke the English, so it wasn't an issue. But Miami was a good segue to get me into this country.
So your whole family moved here.
No, I moved here with my mom.
Oh,
So
okay,
I
okay.
moved. My part of my family is still back home.
Okay.
And which is good because I get to go back home every year,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
visit
that's
the rest
nice.
of my family. Yes.
And especially because San Andres is super like community, right? It's
is.
very community oriented.
Yes,
That must
it
have been
is.
hard, but I mean, you overcame it, obviously.
Yeah, it was hard, but
Yeah.
you get used to it. And once you start making your own friends here and you start making life here, it becomes
Yeah.
different. And thankfully, I mean, I didn't grow up in the era of social media when it's like up and going, but it was at the beginning where we, when MySpace was starting up. So we were able to keep connecting with my friends
Oh,
from
that's
back
so
home.
nice.
And you kind of didn't miss a beat because
Yeah.
you saw how, everybody went off to college, what they were doing, who they were hanging out with, they were going to parties. So you kind of kept in track, with your friends. So that was good too.
I mean, thank gosh for social media,
I know.
right?
I mean, the goods, the
The goods about it. We'll leave the bads over there. We'll leave it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you obviously carry deep pride in your heritage coming from
Yes.
San Andres. What are some values and perspectives from your upbringing that you carry to this day?
I think humility, because we're such a small island. It's
Yeah.
only 10 square miles. So everybody knows one another. So you're kind of raised with, with that sense of humility because you have to watch out for your neighbors. You have to look out for your friends and for the people who lived around you, for your community. So that, I think it's the biggest thing. And we just all of us carry that sense of pride because it is such a small island that when one of us make it, all of us make it. We root for one another, because we want to see, our people go out and do great things and triumph, and become the best that they can because they represent us.
Yeah. So when you first came, was there like, especially because of the cultural shift, was there like a sense of isolation that came with it?
There
or-
was.
Yeah.
There was. And it's sad to say, but
Yeah.
I remember, I think, my first week at school because I didn't know anybody. And lunch hours used to be so long, And I will go in the bathroom and I will.
Don't say that.
I know.
No.
I will like prop my legs up so nobody will see that somebody was sitting in the bathroom.
Stop. You're actually gonna make me cry. That's
I know, it was
amazing.
sad. It was sad.
No.
And you know what? That speaking with other people, I'm not the only one who has done that.
Yeah, of
I
course.
met other people who said I did the same thing
Yeah,
too, because
yeah.
you don't want to feel like a loser. People seeing that you're sitting in the bathroom for your lunch hour.
Yeah.
So I will try to hide myself so people wouldn't see.
That's so
I
sad.
know. But then I met some Dominicanas,
Yes,
and they were like, "Come eat with us at
Oh,
lunch,"
that's so
and
good.
so
That's
that was good.
But especially middle school, because I don't know, like middle school is crazy. Like,
But you know what? They skipped me from middle school.
really?
I didn't do middle school.
because you were too smart.
I finished 7th grade, and I was already doing algebra in 6th grade.
Okay.
And here you start doing, back then you start doing algebra in 9th grade. So they were like, it makes no sense for her to go to 8th grade. Let's just, push her to 9th grade.
ninth grade.
And she's going to do the year again. Like, she's going to repeat it. But then my teachers were like, no, she can go on to
She can
10th
go
grade,
on.
and then,
Oh,
yeah.
so you went from, okay, wait, how old were you when you were in 10th grade?
16. When I started high school, when I was 13.
So a little younger.
Yeah, so a little
of
bit
the
younger. I
bunch,
graduated
yeah.
at 16. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm 17 and I'm a junior. But
But
yeah.
it's not that bad, you know. It's just because of that. It's because the school system is a little bit more advanced.
Yeah.
So and also here you go to 12th grade. Back home you only go to 11th grade.
Oh, okay.
That's
that
the
makes
reason.
a little
Yeah.
bit more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, also you mentioned earlier that you did like pre-dental and then biology, and I also, you know, I did my research. I researched my guests, as you
Thank
may
you.
know, and you went to Parsons. So
I did.
This clearly isn't like a linear path. Like how
Not
was
at all.
this?
Not at all. As I said, you know, I think me going to, you know, college and wanting to be a doctor or a dentist or whatever it is that I wanted to do was because I kind of wanted to make my family proud. You know, like,
Okay.
you bring me to this country, the least that I can do is that I can get a good education and I can, you know, be this success, right?
Yeah.
And in our countries, unfortunately, you know, it's education is something that it's very instilled into us. You know, if you're not a lawyer or a doctor
Yeah,
or an
that's a lot.
engineer, you know, what are you, right?
Yeah.
So growing up, although people always ask me when I was young, what do you want to be? And I will say, I want to be a model, a singer, and an actress. To my dad, that was like nonsense.
That was nonsense.
Yeah,
What do you
like,
mean you can't
like
make a
what do you like?
career?
Okay, what do you really want to be? You know. So moving here, I was like, okay, I need to be a doctor
Yeah.
or something, but it wasn't me.
Yeah,
You know,
of course.
and I'll, you know, and I think careers like that were wonderful, but I think it needs to be a vocation because I feel like you're saving people's lives. You know,
Yeah.
you're actually doing good work. You know, like, it needs to be something that you really want to do, not something that you're doing just for the heck
And
of
also
it.
the responsibility that comes
Exactly,
with it.
the
It's a lot of
responsibility.
pressure.
Yeah. So I by the time I graduated, you know, of college, and I was already working 2 years into my career at Warner Brothers, I became a mom, you know. So I felt, to me, like, okay, your life is just going by and you're not doing anything that you really like, you know. What are you going to do about it? Now you have a daughter. Like, what are you going to do about it? So I said to myself, let me see if I can take a course, you know, online. And then I saw that their Parsons had a degree that you know, could go online and take it. And because I had a daughter now, I couldn't go to New
couldn't-
York,
yeah, you
you
couldn't
know,
go, of
and do it.
course.
So that was a good opportunity for me. And I felt like I was finally doing something that I really liked. And that went hand in hand with me trying to, you know, pivot into something that I really liked, which was the arts, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Creativity,
Me
creativity,
too.
fashion, production, you know,
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
But it was like, how do I get in there? Because my background doesn't align with any of
That's
this,
true.
you know. So when you tell people, I said, okay, if you're gonna start reaching out to these stylists in Miami, what are you gonna show them when you say, hey, you know, can I shadow you or
Yeah.
whatever? What are they gonna see from you that they can say, okay, yeah, you are stylish. So that was kind of my mentality. Like, you need to have something that you can say, okay, I did this course, you know, I got my, you know, my certificate from, you know, fashion at Parsons, you know, and, you know, kind of like finding
mini
something.
background,
Right,
kinda, yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So was there like a moment, was there one exact moment you remember that was like, oh my God, wait, I think I want to do fashion? Or were you more like always kind of mesmerized by it and you kind of knew that was kind of your thing?
Since I was young, I mean, back in the days, I don't know if you're familiar with TRL. So that was MTV. MTV
Okay,
had
okay.
Total Request Live, right? And BET had 106 in Park. And basically, these were shows. They were live shows that people will call into and request their favorite music video. And I always caught myself wanting to see what the host was going to wear today, you know?
Really?
So that was kind of when I knew that this is what I like, you know,
Yeah.
because every day I would be like, I want to see what she's wearing today. You know, I want to see how her hair is styled today. I want to see how she put that look together today. So that's kind of how I knew that I wanted more to be in the creative space.
So what did that teach you, especially when you take that like strong of a pivot? I mean, like
Yeah.
it comes with a lot behind it, you know what I mean? Your family and also you yourself, like pivoting that hard from like pre-dental and all of that stuff to like fashion, which is completely different, and like letting yourself grow and expand to what you actually wanted to do, which is like the arts and like creativity and that. What did that teach you about trusting yourself?
That you can do it. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. The only thing stopping you is yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, had I just sat there and say, okay, this is my life now, I'm a corporate girl and I have a daughter and this is what I'm going to do. But I put a bet on myself and I said to myself, okay, what can I do, in my situation? I can have a cool outfit every day I go to work, and I can have a coworker take a picture of me. And that's what I started doing.
Oh my
I
God.
started curating my Instagram. I will have, this cute outfit every day that I will go to work, and during lunch break, I will tell my friend, can you take a snap of my outfit of the day? And once I had my Instagram well curated, that's when I started to reaching out to stylists, And I was like, okay, at least I don't have a portfolio, but I have myself and they can see my outfits,
so smart.
And that was my way of doing it. But had I not taken that chance, I wouldn't have done the cool things that I have done, and I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. So how old were you when you started reaching out to brands and stuff, if you don't mind me asking?
I was almost, 28, 29.
And so you realized, like, I don't want to be spending my life doing all of this. And at this point, did you already have a daughter?
Yes.
You already had
and
a
that
daughter
was
too.
And that was, I think, having my daughter was also like the catalyst that like pushed me, because I'm looking at this little girl, and I'm like, this little girl looks up to me, like I'm her mom and I want to show her that you can do whatever you want to do.
That's
you
true.
can be
That's
whoever
true.
you want to be. So who do you look up to? Your mom? Okay, well, let me show you. So like she was like the little force that kind of also like pushed me along. And it came with limitations because now I didn't have the free time
That's true.
that I would have had if I, when I wasn't a mom yet. So that's the reason why I opted to, okay, when can I dress up nicely? When I go to work.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do.
Well, you may do. And I mean, look.
Yeah.
Well, so after you started reaching out to stylists, and what'd you get out of this? You were some sort of styling assistant, correct?
Yes. So I started reaching out to stylists, and you have to also know that there are going to be a lot of no's.
That's true.
There are going to be a lot of no's. And I reached out to, I remember I was sitting at a dental office and I was looking at what is the name of the Ocean Drive magazine? And I'm looking for who's the stylist here, and I started taking notes. Okay, I'm going to reach out to this person. I'm going to reach out to that one. The thing with Miami is that Miami is not New York. The styling and the fashion industry is smaller in comparison to something like New York or LA. So I just started reaching out to everybody. And then I reached out to Danny Santiago. Danny Santiago worked on Sex and the City, the entire Sex and the City.
Like styling?
Yeah,
Oh,
like
that's
the
so cool.
like the co-stylist.
That's very cool.
He actually was the co-stylist for And Just Like That. He worked on the Devil Wears Prada, the original
my God,
one.
icon. That's iconic.
And he worked on this new one coming out too. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I would like to know if one of these days I can shadow you. I'm interested in learning a little bit. And he didn't answer at first. And then I followed up again, like, hey, just so you know, da 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 da. And then he was like, I'm working Patricia Field's fashion show this weekend. Do you want to come by? And I was like, yes, never done anything like that before. But I was like, yes, of course, I'm going to do it. And then, funny enough, I had, I was like, what I'm going to wear, And I had this Patricia Fields dress, this vintage one that she did. And I was like, I'm going to put that on, because I want to show up and I want to be memorable,
Yeah.
And even though when you work backstage at fashion shows, everybody wears black, because you're not the focus, And I was there in like my Patricia Fields purple dress and a yellow jacket.
That's when you know you're not afraid, though.
I know.
That's when
And I remember when he saw me, he was like, where did you get that dress? And I was like, I bought it when I was in college. And he was like, that's a vintage Patricia. He was like, you need to go take a picture with her, when we're done. And I was like, okay, so you have to put yourself out there. You have to believe in yourself. You have to be a little bit delusional.
Yeah. No, literally.
A little bit. You have to be a little bit delusional and put yourself out there, because what's the worst that can happen?
Nothing.
Nothing.
You only have things to gain, really.
Exactly.
You don't have anything to lose.
And that's how I started working in the fashion industry.
That's so cool. And you've done like music videos for like Rauw Alejandro, like who else? Like how did this come to be?
With Danny, he was the go-to, and sometimes he's double, triple booked, So whenever things like that happen, he will, set up everything, and he will hand off the project to me and to any other of his stylist assistants. So, I've done videos for Rauw Alejandro. I've worked with Feid. I work with young Miko. I've worked with. I gave you a list. I don't know. There's a lot
somewhere,
of them.
It's somewhere.
Yeah. But it's kind of fun because you get to see the behind the scenes of it, how it works, and how the director's vision, comes to life, and you get to be a part of that, right? Because you're the one actually styling, this entire look. So I know for Ozuna once, we did a video and the look was like 70s, so it's kind of cool to dress everybody in the 70s and see how the makeup and the wigs and everything brought everything together. So that is what I like, it's like taking something from planning to actually, fulfilling that whole vision and make it come to life. And then seeing how these videos have, millions and millions of views, and you saying like, I worked there. I did that. Yeah. It's insane.
That's why I think people love the arts so much, because it's like, it's fully creative. It's such a different experience from being in the corporate world. Although that's some people's like what they want to do, but the arts is just so mesmerizing. You know what I mean? It is. So let's touch base on Warner Bros. How did that come to be? I know you mentioned something about just like sending out applications, but like where on this like line path would it be?
So I knew that I wanted to get into something cool. I know I was at an office, at a clinic working, and it was just very mundane, and I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to work for like, the entertainment industry, right? And here in Miami, as I said, it's very limited, and then I saw that post and I was like, it was an entry-level position, obviously, but it was very operational. So it wasn't anything, it didn't require anything, like for me to be a marketing person or for me to be a copywriter or anything. It was very operational. And I applied for it and I said, okay, I'm gonna apply for it. What's the worst that can happen? Turns out that when I went to the interview, my hiring manager at that point also had a bio major.
Oh gosh, so you connected.
And she told me, she was like, I know the discipline that you have to have, because of the courses that you have to take and how your brain needs to work and how organized you need to be. And that's the kind of person that I'm looking for. And she was like, when I saw that you had, because I'm always thinking that bio thing is always going to throw me off. And it was actually the one thing that helped me, so everything worked out the way it was supposed to.
Because I was about to ask, like, how'd you get that job if you didn't really have any experience in that field?
Yeah.
I mean, like, let's talk about delusion. Like,
I'm telling you. And I was discouraged from applying to it because they were like, they're not going to hire you. Don't even waste your time. And I was like, but why not? Like, exactly. If they're not going to hire me, I don't lose anything. Let's just throw the application in, And I thought they hated me after I did the interview because she was asking me like, what's the percentage of this? And what's the percentage of that? And I'm like, I thought this was Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Why are you asking me how many people can fit under a tent?
Yeah, that's true.
But then after she was like, I'm just seeing how your brain works. If you're able to like answer on cue, if you're able to be spontaneous, if I ask you how many people can fit under a tent, how do you come to that conclusion? How your brain works, So I just think it was something that was meant to be. And for some reason, it was I was at the right time, in the right place. And luckily for me, I enjoyed my career with them. But after 11 years, I think that it's time to, see what's there, other than the corporate side of the entertainment business.
So about Warner Bros., this was based here in Miami?
Yes.
So there wasn't really an issue like with Latina being
no
Latina
because the office that's based here in Miami it's like the headquarters for Latin America.
So it's perfect.
Yeah, so it's not the Anglo speaking side. The headquarters at that moment when I started was in Atlanta. Now they're in New York or DC. But yeah, we catered for the Latin America market.
Okay, so since it was the Latin American market, what'd you guys do in order to bring in like kind of like representation on screen or in your career?
Yeah, well, for that, I mean, it's much better now than what it used to be back in the day.
Of course.
But obviously, we have big markets like Brazil. You know, Brazil it's very diverse. I think Brazil may be like the most diverse, or Colombia is also very diverse. You know, when you go to Mexico, there's not a lot because, you know, their heritage is different. You know, they're natives, you know, but you have Brazil, which have people that were descendants of people who were formerly enslaved, you know, so you have that mixture of culture in Brazil, you know, and in Colombia. And you know, so there you see a lot of representation. Obviously, you need people in positions of power to be able to bring that representation. So for example, in my case, you know, I was able to speak a lot on my experiences as an Afro-Latina because I am an Afro-Latina. So I can speak on maybe we shouldn't run that ad, you know, or maybe we should include this in this ad. You know, if you want to reach this demographic or if your target is X, Y, or Z, maybe we should tweak it a little bit to do that. But that only happens when you have people when people that are sitting around the table making those decisions. If they look like you, that's how you get, you know, brought into that system, you know. So you can't make, and I know I was speaking to a friend who said there's a controversy with a magazine cover because it was supposed to represent the coast of Colombia, the Pacific coast, which is actually, you know, that's where the Afro heritage comes from, and they put a white woman on the cover of it. And it was very counterintuitive because it's like, okay, you're celebrating the Pacific coast of Colombia, which is Chocó, you know, and it's obviously, you know, people that are black, and you're putting, you know, somebody who's not black on the cover, you know. But that's the thing, if in those meetings there's nobody that looks like somebody who lives in the Pacific, they won't understand the gravity because they don't know. And it comes from a place of ignorance because they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah. So I also read that you completed the Warner Bros. Ignite and Accelerate People Manager program, I believe back in 2023 or 2024. But it also included diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's kind of what you did. You kind of like oversaw it.
Yeah, what I always look for is I love learning a lot. Like, I'm somebody that I love learning. I love reading. I love watching documentaries. You know, I love educating myself. I can't say that I'm a savant at everything, but I want to know a little bit of everything to have a conversation with somebody. And then if I'm speaking to somebody who knows more than me, then I can educate myself. So I always sought out courses or programs within the company that will help me advance that program, especially because I was a manager. I was managing people. So I kind of wanted to make sure that I was preparing myself, that I could be the best leader for them. So those courses, like the Ignite and all that stuff, were programs that the company offered for people who wanted to go out there and wanted to be a little bit more involved into the culture and in those that aspect of the company. So I took advantage of it. I mean, if I see it and I thought that it was a good idea for me to do, I will run it by my superiors, and if they will, you know, green light it, then I will go for it.
Cool. So can you take me through like a day in the life working for Warner Bros? Like, what exactly did you do? Give me like an inside scoop. So
what we did, well, what the office does is that we sell ad sales. So we have TV networks or channels in Latin America that belong to Warner Brothers. So Cartoon Network, CNN, TNT, etc. So companies who want their ads to run on those networks, then they will come to us. So what my team did was that we will actually manage the airtime of all those ads. So once the contract is closed and the client says, you know, my new perfume is coming out and I want to air on these 3 networks because that's the demographic that I'm looking for. I want to air at this time because I know that's where the eyeballs are of the people that I'm trying to get, the people that I know are going to buy my perfume. You know, when that was closed, then they will send it to us and we will execute that plan. So we will make sure that we look at the commercial, make sure that it ticks all the boxes, especially legally, because we're dealing with different countries. Every country has a different rules. So we will make sure that we'll check that, and then we will manage the airtime.
Cool. But with this, was there kind of like a sense of responsibility to do the right thing, or kind of like...
Yeah, because the client is paying for the ad to air. If the ad doesn't air,
that's true.
then it's on you.
Yeah.
So you have that responsibility,
That's
you know,
true.
and then we have networks like CNN where you have breaking news all the time.
Yeah.
And when you have breaking news, nothing is airing because they're focused on what the breaking news is.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to mitigate a lot of those issues as they come, and, you know, think quick on your feet. Like, what solution can I give the client, knowing that the ad is not going to air? And we
Yeah.
also did live events. So in Latin America, they had the rights to the Latin Grammys and to the Oscars. So when the Latin Grammys are actually here in Miami, which I think 2 years ago, that was the case, obviously the clients come to us because they want their, you know, brand to be a part of, you know, the live events.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, all of that also goes into it. And live events are very tricky because they're live events.
Yeah.
You know, so that's another layer of difficulty that comes with it too.
That's true. That's true. Well, I mean, you succeeded, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not without stress, not
Yeah.
without, you know, worrying and calling people, you know, but, you know, that's the beauty of it, as I tell you. You know, I love being in the background and I love seeing the details, you know, because you look at it as a proud accomplishment. When you're done, you can say, like, I
Yeah.
did that, you know, or
Yeah.
I was a part of that. So that's always fun.
During your time at Warner Bros., was this also the time where you were like assisting music videos for styling?
Yes.
So you did it all at once?
I did it all at once.
But
yeah.
did it ever get like repetitive, or are you so passionate about it that no?
Well, you know, I think what people don't know about fashion is that it's a lot of work.
That's
You
true.
know, people think, yes,
It's like some easy
when you
job.
look at when you look at your model, or you look at the artist, or you look at the dancer, you know, they look beautiful, but it's a lot of work. You're talking about, you have to go, the director is going to give you a mood board, and he's going to give you a plan of what he's envisioning for this video or for this movie or for this show, whatever. And you need to find what he's looking for. And sometimes it's not as easy. And then you have budgets. You know, they tell you, this is my budget. And then, you know, I remember we did a campaign for a famous hotel here in Miami. And the budget was like, let's say Target, but they wanted her to look like Amal Clooney.
Amazing, yeah.
You know, and it's like,
It's difficult.
it's
You have
difficult
to
to
execute the
achieve,
idea.
right? And I see your vision and I agree with it, but you know, so that's a lot of work that you need to go through. Then you need to, if you're dressing more than one person, you know, you have to deal with shoe sizes, you know, clothing, and then the models get here and they forgot that they needed to bring something, so
Yeah.
now you have to have a backup for them. It's a lot of work, and then when it's done, cleaning all that clothes, you know, so it's a lot of work. And I'm glad that I did it, because now I can now say, okay, I did it, and now it's like, do you really want to continue doing that, or do you feel like it's not for you?
Yeah.
But it's fun, and it's a beautiful thing, and I enjoy it, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But like, you don't get sick of it, do you? Because you like.
I don't think you get sick of it, because it's not the same, you know. Two videos are never going to be the same, you know, because artists are different, you know, everybody has their own vibe, you know, the concepts are always different, and it's good to kind of also exercise your imagination, you know, and
Yeah.
see, what can I do in this case? Like, I remember I did that over here, but now they want this. What can I come up with, you know? So it's never repetitive, so that's always good.
And also the fact that it's always like challenging your creativity. I'm assuming that's kind of
Exactly.
like motivating
Yes.
driver.
Yes, it is.
So, as you mentioned, you recently attended the Latin Grammy Awards through Warner Bros.,
Yes.
celebrating artists you grew up listening to. What did that moment mean to you personally, not just professionally? So did you kind of like look back and you're like, well, like I'm here right now, like these are all of the accomplishments I've done, like I'm proud of myself? Or was
It's always surreal
Yeah.
to see that where you started and where you're at, you know, and where you're sitting there, like actually seeing, you know, like I'm at the show, I'm at the live event, you know, people are looking at this through the TV and I'm actually sitting here, you know. And funny enough, you know, they had Juan Luis Guerra. I always wanted to go to one of his concerts, so I got that. They had Marc Anthony. I love Marc Anthony, so I got that.
Yeah, that's so
Then they had a medley because they were doing a tribute to salsa, and Grupo Nietzsche came out, which is Colombia's jewel, you know, for salsa. So I got to see all these amazing. John Bon Jovi came out with Pitbull.
So cool.
That was never in my bingo card.
And getting to see that live,
and get
insane,
to see that
right?
live is insane, right? So you don't know. I remember I was sitting next to my coworker. And we were like, I don't know if I should film or if I should like take it in, right? But I don't want to like forget this memory, you know. And then they gave Carlos Vives like a special award, so he was there and Juanes was there. Everybody was there, you know. So I was like, is this real life right now? You know, and I get to experience this, and you know, it was amazing. And yes, you look back and you say like, wow. All the hard work that you do does pay off, you know, but you just have to, you know, sometimes it's hard and sometimes you think like, what am I doing? But it pays off. I think everything that you put out comes back to you, you know. I always say that, and I say it to my daughter. I'm like, when you do good, good is always going to follow you. And, you know, sometimes she tells me, Mommy, I said good morning to somebody and they didn't say good morning back. And I'm like, I'm like, don't worry about that. I'm like, you're saying good morning because you're wishing somebody a good morning. You know, it's about you. It's not about them. If they want to respond or not, that's up to them. But you're putting that energy out there because it's going to come back to you.
Yeah. So weird question, but did you end up filming or no?
Did I end up filming?
Yeah,
I did.
Okay, good.
And now it's funny because my phone is like, you're out of battery, and I see those videos because they're the bigger ones, and I'm like, I don't want to delete them. You know, I want to keep them, but yeah, I did.
Yeah. Well, good. I mean, but you also got to absorb it. I mean, it's it's like, but it's such a surreal experience, I imagine. Such a surreal experience. Right there in front of the people you've watched.
And also seeing how a live show works.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, how the entire production works and how you have to be there because it's live. As I said, it's live. So you need to be standing there. When I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you need to be there because we go live, you know. So seeing all that, how it works, the camera angles, how they change the stages, you know, something that really I did acting theater when I was in high school. So that I always loved the theater, how they do the changes in the scenery, because you only have a fixed place to work with. And you have to, if you're telling a story, there's going to be different elements of that story that needs to be represented. So seeing how they work the stage and move it around, you know, it's fascinating.
Yeah, but this is crazy that you like just started like living your life or like living the way you want to at least after you had your daughter.
I know.
Like that's a crazy challenge to take. Like you want to live, but also, you know, Angie,
I know.
My first guest, just had a baby. She's like working hours and hours and hours because like it takes up so much time. Like, was that like your biggest challenge?
No, and I'm a single mother, so it's even harder.
Yeah.
But as I said, I feel like they really push you because, you know, it's like, okay, this child depends on me. You know, like whether I do good or I do bad, they're my responsibility, you know. So I think it's that little impulse that you need, you know, they come into your life, and because you want to show them how amazing they can be, you want to reflect that. And that's the reason also why I stopped straightening my hair, because I knew that my daughter was going to be born with curly hair. So, you know, all those things I think they bring out of you.
So also talking about your hair, you recently started the brand Angie's Curls with Angie, which was the first guest on this podcast. And the brand bio used is the phrase afirmaciones risas para el alma, which in English means curly affirmations for the soul. What does this phrase mean to you personally, and why was it important for the brand to be rooted with that affirmation?
Because growing up as a little brown girl with curly hair, you know, not seeing any representation anywhere on TV, in magazines, on movies, you need that. You know, a little girl learning how to love herself needs somebody to tell her, that they're beautiful. Your hair is perfect the way it is. There's nothing wrong with your hair. You don't look crazy. You know, that's the way your hair grows out of your scalp.
Yeah.
So those affirmations are needed, you know, and nowadays it's a little bit better. You see a lot of representation in the fashion industry, in TV, on television and movies. You see that. But when we were growing up, you never saw that. You know, people used to laugh at my hair, you know, and think about being a little girl, people laughing at something as the way you are. It's like, how do you even process that?
You can't.
Like, what is wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with me. This is my hair. Why is it so funny? You know, why do you think it's crazy? So growing up with that, you know, affects you as you grow older. So that's why we rooted, you know, the brand that I co-founded with my friend Angie, more so, you know, we want it to be a labor of love and like giving back to those those two little girls that we had, you know, that we were, you know, and didn't have that. We kind of want to give them back, you know, give that back to them.
Yeah. But also I think representation is like one of the most important things, especially for like underrepresented communities, whether that be in television, social media, movies, I mean, everything you see in general. And I just wanted to bring up that I recently saw this post on social media, and it was this dark-skinned girl talking about gay people. And she was like, oh, I don't understand why people or producers feel the need to include gay people in every single show. Like, I get that you're trying to normalize it, but like, don't normalize it. Like, I want like normal people. And saying that is just like so like paradoxical with the fact that she's dark skinned and
I know.
she, you know, yeah.
And, you know, and I think a lot of us, and it's, I don't think it's ill-intended, you know, I think a lot of us just don't have the knowledge and don't understand that there's somebody out there that would love to watch a movie and see them represented in it. Like, I remember being a little girl and in trying to imagine what I would look like as a woman. I didn't know what to think, because I'm like, I don't see anybody in the movies or in the magazines that look like me. So what am I going to look like when I get older? So, you know, it goes back to what I tell you about talking to people from different backgrounds, you know, reading books and not judging people from the get-go, but actually understanding where they come from, because that's the only way that you're going to learn. Humans are very complex. You know, our backgrounds dictate who we are. Our experiences dictate who we are. So, you know, it's a very nuanced conversation, but it is important to have that representation, because this is a world that it's so diverse, you know, so people need to feel represented and able to be able to support you, right? If you don't bring, you know, if you don't have somebody that looks like me in your podcast, you know, a little girl that looks like me maybe won't look at your podcast because they don't see anything that will resonate with them and will grab them onto it. So that's why it's important to speak to, you know, different type of backgrounds and learn from them. I think it's a beautiful thing.
And also you brought up your childhood, and I asked Angie this question, and I feel like you guys resonate a lot with the same struggles, especially coming from the same place. If you could give a piece of advice to your younger self now, being this grown woman that understands that there's nothing really wrong with her, what would you tell like your little like 5-year-old self or something?
I will give her the biggest hug ever. Like, I will give her the biggest hug ever, and I will tell her, don't stop dreaming. You know, like, keep dreaming. Don't think that it's crazy. You know, like, dream as big as you want, because if you put the work behind it, you will be able to achieve it.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's pretty good. And also I love how you keep mentioning that you really like started doing it for your daughter, because I feel like that's so important as a mother. And like me coming from a daughter, it's so important, like seeing my mom take risks or not be afraid and be brave. And that's what really
and at a certain age, you know, that's who you look up to. That's that's your superhero. That's the person that you go to, you know, like if my daughter is sick and she's like, Mommy, can you lay next to me? You know, and then the next day she's like, thank you so much for laying next to me. I wouldn't have felt better if you didn't, you know, lay to me. They need that, you know. So you want to be brave. You have to be brave for them. You have to, you know, be that person that's going to kick down those doors to show them that it's possible. Yeah.
And again, about Angie's Curls, it was created around postpartum healing, curl growth, and affirmations. Why was it important for this brand to be rooted in healing, not just beauty?
Because we need to heal ourselves. You know, we need to heal that inner child. You know, that didn't see anybody that looked like them. That, I remember, going to a Catholic school, where, all my friends had straight, beautiful hair, and my hair was always braided because they didn't know how to style it, So the healing part is so important because, we grow up with that, I guess, that little rechazo. I don't know the word can't come to my mind right now, but it's about healing that wound that we have, that we grew up with thinking that we weren't good enough the way we were, that we had to modify ourselves, to be accepted. Like I remember going to job interviews that I thought, okay, I'm going to have to put my hair back, or I'm going to have to straighten this hair out because maybe they won't think that I'm professional enough, and it's like, but that's how your hair is. It's natural to you. Why should you change yourself in order to fit? So that's that wound that we're trying to heal with Angie's curls.
I love how you said it, like, do it for the inner child in you.
Yes.
I feel like that's so important. And that's such a great perspective to put it, because I mean, who wouldn't want to take care of their little child self?
Of course. I mean, if you think about your little 5-year-old self, I'm sure that there's things that you would like to tell her too. Of
course, yeah.
That you would like to say, what, you're doing great. Don't feel bad because X, Y, or Z. There's always, I think we always need to be introspective and always go back. And I think that's why it's always a good, when you go to therapy, they always tell you, like, what would you tell your 7-year-old self? What would you tell your 5-year-old self? Because it's so important for us to recognize those things that we had growing up, and now being older and being able to see, okay, it did work out, go back and say, you know what? You were doing fine. Nothing was happening to you. You're okay the way you are. You don't have to try to be like your friend. I think that's important.
Yeah, super important. And I mean, after everything you've achieved, I mean, like, you're incredible. Like, this isn't any normal path. I'll put it that way. Is there any goal you're still working towards in the future? Is there anything you're still like running to accomplish, or something you want for your future self?
Yeah, well, I think I'm at a point now that I'm trying to figure out what to do next. I mean, we started Angie's Curls, and right now it's a little baby. We launched it back in December. It's just been a month, so we're learning, and it's good because, I'm very fortunate. Angie is very passionate, and it's good to work with people who share the same passion, because that's the only way that I think you can make things work. When you both believe that, this is what we're doing and we have the same goal, we have the same vision, you work, together to make it work. So right now, my focus is Angie's Curls, and seeing how many people can benefit. It's amazing to see people use something that you created and say, I really like it, I love it, it makes my hair smell so good, or it makes my daughter's hair more manageable, because you're like, we did this exactly for that, so seeing that is very rewarding.
Like seeing your goals being accomplished.
It's super rewarding. So right now, we're just trying to, we're at the beginning stages, and we're very happy with the reception that we have gotten so far. And we have a little, we have special little things coming up that we're excited about. So yeah, that's what we're working on right now.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You've already accomplished so much, and as a mother as well, that's
really and
inspiring.
It's funny because you don't think you accomplish much until you start talking to people and you start telling them, yeah, I did this, and they're like, while you were pregnant, yeah, while I was pregnant, while you were working, yeah, while I was working, and then you start saying like, whoa, I have done a lot. Sometimes you don't even see it because you're so in go mode, and you're so on autopilot that you sometimes need to sit back and taking it in and be like, wow, I did do this.
Like I actually did all that, like looking back.
Right,
see all your accomplishments. So when you look at all the roles you accomplish, whether that be a corporate leader, a creative, a stylist, and a mother, what kind of visibility do you hope your story creates for the next generation of women?
One of resilience, one of, of betting on yourself and reaching for the stars. As I said, I always look at people, successful people, And I always like, wow, that person believed in themselves and that they did it, and now they get to, like, that's their life. You know, when you look like a Shakira, you're like, she gets to make music because that's what she loves, you know, and how amazing it is to live. You have to think, this is one life. You only have this one life, you know, and I always, sometimes I go into like philosophy and stuff, but it helps me because I'm like, okay, this is your one life that you have. I mean, nobody's going to live it for you. You're the one living it. So why not just try to do what you want to do, you know? And the same thing, you know, when we started Angie's Curls, you know, obviously there's a fear because you're like, is it going to be received well? Are people are going to like it? Are we even going to sell anything? What if we don't sell anything? You know, you start doubting. The imposter syndrome starts coming in, right? Yeah. And I often with Angie, you know, I will tell her like, but what if we do? And what if it goes well? You know, and I'm like, you know, like, it's better to do it and fail than never to have done it at all and just live with that regret, 100%. You know? So I'm like, let's just go for it, you know, and we'll figure it out and we'll see, but let's just say we did it, you know? Yeah,
again, that like delusional, but yet optimistic.
You have to be delusional. You have to have a little bit of delusion. Yeah. Yes.
So if you could give a piece of advice to everybody younger than you watching this or anybody watching this in general, what would it be?
I will say be kind to yourself. Don't, because we're so, like, I'm my worst critic, you know, I am my worst critic. Like, there's nothing you can tell me that I'm not going to tell myself. You know, I have already thought about it. I already said it, you know, but I will say be kind to yourself, you know, knowing that there's no manual to life. You know, we're only going to learn as we actually live it, you know, so be kind to yourself and enjoy life. Like, don't worry about tomorrow and what if, and enjoy today. You know, because tomorrow is a brand new day and tomorrow is going to take care of itself. So be kind to yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. Keep dreaming, you know, and bet on yourself. You know, if you know you like something and you know you have the discipline to do it, go for it because it's only going to be positive.
100%. Amazing advice. Like, you're amazing and you're super inspiring. Well, that's all I have for us today.
Thank you for having me.
I could stay longer. It was amazing having you.
Thank you.
I just love sharing people's stories, especially when kind of conversing about it makes them realize what they've actually accomplished. I think that's such an important thing. And you did that. Good.
This is a good therapy session.
Yeah, it was an amazing therapy session. Yeah. Well, I hope to have you back in the future because that was a really
I would love
cool
to
story.
come back. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's it for today, you guys. Thank you so much, and I hope everybody enjoyed today's episode, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.